welcome Tanya Janka.
Hi everyone, this is the same disclaimer that you have probably seen many times before. And so just so you know, I guess they're trying to say don't try this at home or blame us if you do try and it doesn't work out. I'm Tanya Janka and I'm here today to talk about DevSecOps and to talk about things I've seen go wrong over and over and over again. I do research with IANS Research and I do calls with different companies, and over the years, I've worked with I looked it up, over 300 different large enterprises. And so I'm gonna go over the 15 things I've seen go wrong just over and over again, how you can spot them, and how you can make sure, most importantly, that they don't happen to you. Okay, so now we've done a disclaimer, so we're gonna talk about DevSecOps. Tried, tested, and failed approaches. I find we often talk about best practices, and it's like, that's cool, we're supposed to do that. But why? So we're going to talk about why. Yes, exactly. And so let's go. Let's go. Good morning, RSA. How are all of you? Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. Okay. So you're probably like, who is this lady? I'm me. I'm Tanya Janka. I'm the head nerd at We Hack Purple, also known as CEO and founder, if you feel like getting really official. And I do security training, AppSec training, and security champions as a service. I wrote a book about AppSec. I've worked in IT a really long time. In July, it's 27 years. I did a bunch of stuff and a bunch of things, and the summary is that I am a big nerd on the internet. I'm really excited about the security of software, and I really want you to get more excited about it. So I feel like the IT security industry is awesome at network. We are amazing at locking down desktops and all of that stuff. But when it comes to software, we're still kind of working on it. And I feel over the past 3 years, we've gotten way better. But there's still a lot of work to do. And so that's what I'm kind of obsessed with right now. And with that, I want to show you resting AppSec face. Like, you did what now? With my app, what have you done? So whenever I go work with companies, I often find they'll do things where I'm just like, oh no. And so I was like, well, what if I write, instead of just keep writing about what you should do and what's really good and all of that, I was like, what if I started talking about what was going wrong and how you could avoid it? And so my definition of DevSecOps might not be the exact same as yours. So I like to say it's an AppSec person who works in a DevOps shop, right? And so that means to me, I still need to threat model. I still need to, give them a bunch of security requirements. Oh, cool, you're doing serverless? Awesome. I need these 2 things to be part of your project. And FYI, I'm gonna do this, this, and this with your serverless app to make sure it's safe, right? But a lot of companies, their definition that's more common, is it's the AppSec person who owns the tooling and the CI/CD. So how many people here have had a vendor tell you, oh, just put my tool in the CI/CD, it'll be perfect, all your apps will be secure, it'll be so awesome and easy. Any hands? Is everyone? Oh, okay, I'm seeing hands. Awesome. Yeah. And then, okay, so of those people, how many times was it perfect the first time? What? No hands? Come on. If you're at home, just FYI, 0 hands. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. So I want to talk about how DevSecOps isn't easy. Sometimes it goes wrong. And I want to talk about why. So a thing in the security industry that I've seen a problem with, we are awesome at keeping secrets, and we stink at marketing. We have marketing people that are good at that, but we security folks really stink at telling people what's important, why it's important. I have met a lot of people who are 20 years older than me or older that are like never doing updates, because they're like, oh, I was told never to click on pop-ups. You won't trick me. And then they haven't updated their phone in like 5 years. I'm not kidding. I'm really, really not kidding. And so we're not getting the good reason of why. And because we're so good at keeping secrets, a lot of us never share our lessons learned. And this is a big, big, big problem. So companies don't want to look bad. They don't want you to know they have vulnerabilities. FYI, you all have some. Secret's out. There's no one that has zero vulnerabilities in prod. There's no one like that, unless they're not testing at all, so they think they have none. And so I want to share why, and because I've worked with so many companies, it's not clear which ones did what or whatever, but I think it's really, really important as an industry, and I'm hoping my example of doing this is that more people will share what went wrong. I used to work in the Canadian government, and someone asked me to do a podcast about things that went wrong, and I'm like, I've had one employer for 13 years. It'll be really obvious who I'm talking about. So I'm hoping as an industry, at some point, we can find a way where we share more so we don't fall for the same tricks over and over and over. But I digress. Let's get to the reasons. Okay, so number one, breaking builds on false positives. Or, some of you, depending upon how old you are, the boy who cried wolf. I have so many organizations, first of all, they're like, I can't wait to break all the builds and stop those damn devs. And they act like they're a parent and the developers are 2 years old and that they're like in the cookie jar or something like that, as opposed to a whole bunch of professionals that are doing their jobs the best they can, who have lots of pressures to get things done in a certain amount of time. And so sometimes I see them putting tools in, and so I have fallen victim to this. I have bought tools where the promise was 0 false positives. You won't need to do any tuning. It's gonna be so fast. And I remember buying a product where generally it takes like 6-8 hours to run this product, and it still took 2 hours, and they're like, it's lightning fast. And I was like, for a developer, anything longer than 15 minutes and you are archaically slow. That can't go in my CI/CD. I'm so sorry. And so if we're breaking builds on false positives, what we're actually doing is breaking trust. Like every single time we're breaking trust. And I find that so I did this. I know. I was part of this open source project called OWASP DevSlop, so like sloppy DevOps. And I was like, I'm so cool, I'm putting this dynamic scanner in, I'm totally awesome, it's gonna be amazing, and I'd run a bunch of scans and it was cool. And then my friend who was on the project, Abel, he was like doing some coding as we do, and then he submitted it and it broke. It broke and said it had SQL injection and it didn't. And then he didn't say anything because we're different time zones, so it was super late for him. So in the morning I was giving a demo and it broke on a false positive. And I looked so stupid because I was like, look, it's working, it's catching. And then I looked and I was like, oh no, it's not even real. And so that was the first time I learned that lesson. And a lot of you have probably learned that lesson. And so it's very, very important. We test our tools a lot before we turn on breaking. That's how you avoid this. You start with testing not even in the release pipeline, just in a copy of the pipeline. You run a whole bunch of tests there, and once it's going really well, then you put it in the actual release pipeline, the one everyone else is playing in. Then, after months of that, and it's totally fine, it's going fast and everything's good, then you might turn on breaking. So that's number one. Let's look at number two. Okay, turning tools on without testing them. So this has the same answer as the last one, but I see a lot of companies, they'll buy a product and the product costs like $100,000. I once worked with a bank and they had bought a product and they were paying $2 million per year for this product. And they're a very, very big bank in Canada and we only have 5 because we're little and tiny and quaint. But basically, they turned it all on immediately because they spent so much money on it. They're like, we want to get return on investment immediately. And so they didn't do all the testing they should. And they didn't look at all the things they should. And she's like, so once everyone stopped yelling at me, and so one of the things we can do is practice outside the pipeline. Honestly, when I buy a tool, I pick the dev team that likes me the best, and I start working with them. And I just scan it manually, like totally outside the pipeline. I test it like that. Then I'm like, may I clone your pipeline? Could I try with that? And then eventually I'm like, what if this went in your release pipeline? Then if that's working and everyone's getting along, then I show all the other teams. And I know you're like, oh, that must take forever, that must take weeks. It does. But you are allowed to buy like a graduated licensing. I know all the vendors right now are upset. But like you can say, oh, we want to buy like 5 licenses for the first 6 months, and then assuming this goes well, like then we'll sign for the 100, 200, 300 or whatever. Like a proof of concept isn't necessarily enough, and buying like a small handful of licenses, trying it out, making sure it's cool, might save you a lot of money and time, and angry developer conversations. I try to have nice conversations with them, and I hope all of you do too. And so I try really, really hard. We're gonna come back to this a few times where it's like Tanya was a developer for way longer than she did security or something. Okay, so number 3, artificial gates. Has anyone, okay, so when I was a software developer, the security team, I referred to them as the Department of No, because that's all they ever said. They weren't, no, not this, but you can do that. It was just flat no. And I would say, what am I supposed to do? And they would say, well, you should know, which meant I don't know and I feel insecure about it. It took me a while to learn that. And so when DevSecOps came out and CI/CDs, a lot of them are like, I can make some gates. I can finally make a gate. I've wanted to have a gate and I wasn't allowed for a while, and now I'll make a pretend gate. And basically, I've heard people that I respect and really like, and they're like, I just need to slow them down. And I'm like, that's why they'll go around you. So when developers obey security policies, it's because they are politely being obedient. None of us have to. None of us have to. We can go around pretty much all of your tools whenever we want. Most of them, even the fancy ones, a lot of them, I still see people all the time. And I'll be with them and I'm like, oh, I guess we have this blocker. And they're like, no, I'll just use my workaround. And we all call that an exploit. And so when you're like throwing up all these fake artificial gates that aren't part of policy, that no one else agreed to, and you're just like stopping things to slow them down because you can't keep up, you need to have a conversation instead of making fake gates. Because guess what? They'll turn them off because they can. They have the power to turn all of that off. Okay, so instead of create a policy, actually speak to people. Don't abuse your CI/CD pipeline, please. Okay, so next, missing test results. So this is a weird one. So when I first started doing security, I remember running a scan and I was like, great, I have the results. I'm gonna email this to the devs. And they're like, whoa, you can't share that with them. How will they know how to fix it? They're like, that's too much information. That's sensitive information. We can't share it. We have to have meetings and talk about it and send a bunch of emails. And I was like, can't I just make tickets out of this and put it in Jira so that they'll fix it? That's where they live. They live in Jira and VS Code. That's where my devs live. Like, no. We'll pick one from each team and we'll give them an account and they can RDP remote desktop into this machine, then they can log in, then they can do this. No, none of them are gonna do that. We don't have time for you. I need the test results to show up in my CI/CD pipeline. I need my test results in a place the developers like to be. And there's Bugzilla, there's lots of Jira equivalents, whatever bug tracker you're using, I want my bugs in there. Whichever IDE they're using, Visual Studio Code, Eclipse, IntelliJ, it doesn't matter. I want to be able to show them stuff there. I'd like them, ideally, to be able to run the tool themselves there. And so if they can't see the test results and they have to attend a meeting and read a bunch of emails, and then they get a PDF that's 200 pages long, these results don't count. I don't care if your tool can find things very quickly, it's very accurate. If it's locked away on some other very different place that they never look, I need to be able to move it easily, and by that I mean automate it going into wherever they're sharing their bugs, or I'm buying another tool. I'm sorry, it's not happening. I, the AppSec person, if I'm serving 2, 3, 4, sometimes 500 devs, I don't have time to go get everyone's results and email to them. Do I look like an administrative assistant? Don't answer that. I have things to do. I have important work to do, right? I'm gonna go do a threat model instead with that hour. It's ridiculous. Anyway, so this is a pet peeve of mine, and it turns out most developers don't love this. And as I've talked to more AppSec people, they don't like it either. So if you make a product that happens to give results and you lock them away, think about it. Okay, so next. Runaway tests. Okay, so I also did this by accident, and I wasn't supposed to. So again, with DevSlop, the DevSlop team, if you're listening, you are so patient with me. They're building code and doing stuff, and I'm I'm gonna add 9 tools to the CI/CD. I don't understand how to tune any of them. And so I remember I was creating this demo and I was going to Israel and I'm really excited. I'm gonna speak at this security conference in Israel with all the awesome hacker people. And I'd put in this tool and it would just run 4 or 5 hours. And I remember my team's so we have 30 minutes on stage. what are you gonna do? We ended up just like filming and doing like that time lapse and making a silly montage video of us like drinking coffee and being ridiculous for the 3 hours that passed. But this happens a lot. And so it's really, really important that we test, again, like I said before, like probably since this is number 5, I've probably said it 4 times, test outside. But if a developer tells you like, listen, it's not ending, can you do something? Listen, go talk to them. So I've seen tests run 18 hours where the last build, it only took 3 hours, but apparently enough code has changed that the tool's decided that it's gonna do all of the code, not just the part I changed, et cetera, et cetera. And so if I try to be approachable to the devs. I've learned not to like yell. I've learned to, when they tell me stuff, not go, oh my gosh, you should not have done that. And this is hard. I'm very bad at poker. I always just like, I look at my cards and I'm like, and so I've learned to be like calm and approachable and try to get people to come to me. And so if someone comes to you and they're like, listen, I don't know what happened yesterday, but it was running forever, so we just turned it off. Instead of yelling at them, which I've seen people do, say, okay, let me come down and tune that for you, I'm gonna fix it. And sometimes that means yanking it out of the pipeline for a while you figure out what's going on. Sometimes you have to call the vendor and like help desk gets involved, et cetera. But if a test runs a really long time, that derails everyone's work on that team all day. Like, I remember I was doing something, and then Abel on my open source project team, he's like, hey, so I'd like to kick off a build, but you're fooling around doing something? Hello, it's been hours. I went to a meeting, I came back, it's still doing it. Could you stop your stuff? And then I realized, oh, I'm not a team of 1, I'm a team of 5. I have to be polite. And so please be polite with me and talk to them and make it known. Like, listen, if my tools misbehave, come tell me so I can fix it for you. Please don't turn it off while I'm not looking, and then just never have any tests done. And so that's what they'll do. If you don't listen, if they bring it up and you don't listen, badness happens. Okay, oh yeah, using up all the resources so no one can run tests, you are an unpopular person. It's like if you drink all the coffee and you don't make more. Okay, so next, 6, impossible service level agreements. And so this might sound really obvious to you because of the way I'm gonna explain it, but almost every client that I work with at first is like, we can't do that. So I like to have 2 service level agreements for the whole org. And one is all of the mistakes we made in the past, generally referred to as technical debt. So the first time I do a scan with a tool, that's like a benchmark. It's a sad benchmark, just to be clear. And I have an SLA of like, we're gonna fix, 3 criticals a month, let's say. And then once those are done, 3 highs, et cetera. And we're gonna chip away at it really slowly. And then I have another SLA. Every new code thing you do, every new bug you build, you're only allowed lows. You're not allowed to put a new high, critical, or medium out into prod. So that means if you wrote new code and it's a high, that's not okay. That's not okay. And there are lots of tools that can automate this for you. Sometimes you have to use some Microsoft Excel, and that's okay. That's my favorite security tool. But basically, if you can have 2 service level agreements, you can chip away at your technical debt and then make sure no new scary stuff gets out there. However, what almost every company I've worked with starts with when we start our discussion is, no highs or criticals in prod from now on. And so what will happen is there'll be a legacy app. It's nice, it's old, it's like almost as old as me. It has lots of vulnerabilities, as you might expect, because software does not age like wine. It ages poorly. And so you have this app and it's full of tons of vulnerabilities, and then you have a person like me, and I send in 5 PR requests to fix a whole bunch of critical bugs. Well, they're like, oh, there's still 200 left, so you're not allowed going to prod. So I've fixed 5 awesome bugs, and they won't let me put the bug fixes into prod because I'm not meeting the SLA. And right now you're like, that seems so obvious. Of course they should let you put fixes in. No, they don't. And so a few years ago, I was consulting with one client for 3 or 4 years, mostly so that I could do some DevSecOps every week and keep on time and sound really smart when I do talks like this, because I literally did it the day before. And I had to leave there last year because of business stuff. They're awesome, just to be clear. It was me. I signed an exclusive contract for a while. That is done now. Anyway, and so I had to leave them. So I hired my friend to replace me. And her and I And a year later, and that means this year, we had coffee together, as we do, and she's like, so Tanya, I was looking through the bug tracker, and there are still lots of bugs open. And I was like, I thought we fixed these. I fixed those. And she's like, so I went and I looked at all the merge requests, and I looked up your name, and I looked up my name. Did you know that you submitted 100 critical bug fixes when you worked there? I'm like, oh, it's not that high. She's like, no, I looked it up. You did. And I was like, yay, I fixed all these bugs. She's like, no, my dear, they did not merge any of them. They did not merge any of mine, and that's why I quit today. What? She's like, she submitted way more than me because she was full-time and I was part-time. She's like, there are almost 500 critical and high bug fixes, and they wouldn't, because we didn't meet the SLA. She's like, I'm done. She's like, I took my little coffee cup and I threw it, and then I was at home and I work from home, so then I had to wash it. But I showed my rage. She's so funny. She's really amazing. And she's like, so I quit. And they're like, why would you quit? We'll give you a raise. She's like, you can't pay me to be just completely frustrated every single day. And so when you make your service level agreements, this might sound so obvious because of the way I'm explaining it, but like ask them, does this make sense to you? Do you think you can do this? Is this possible? And like when you do that and then you listen, so you don't ask, take no notes, ignore them, and then do whatever you want. You like listen to them. You end up with things like 2 different SLAs. And it's slightly more work, but then those 5 bug fixes I did would have been in there, and then her hundreds of fixes, et cetera, and that organization would have been significantly more secure. And apparently some of mine did get in, because I am very whiny and vocal, but she's like, about 100 didn't. And that was heartbreaking. And don't tell me she broke her NDA. I knew their stuff better than they do. Okay, so untrained staff. So this is a thing I've mostly seen in the government. I worked in the Canadian government for a long time, and I've worked with the American government sort of peripherally a bit. But I've spent a lot of quality time with We Hack Purple community members. So I run like a little online community, and we have venting sessions with Chatham House rules where we never record anything. And government employees, you're amazingly patient. I don't know how you do it. I feel like you all deserve a pat on the back and maybe like a hug for your patience. And they'll be given like 0 training. It's like, you do DevOps now. What's up? And it's like, but last week I just did regular ops and we were only doing okay at that. Cool, infrastructure as codes next week, good luck with that. And like no training, no coaching, no change in leadership, no person that's like, okay, I've done this before, let's go forth and conquer. Like no support whatsoever. And then guess what happens? At some point, the staff make a mistake. Just like me with DevSlop and my OWASP open source project, it didn't matter. So our entire web app project was just our website for our project that mostly made fun of me because I built it, so I'm allowed. And that was it. So if it went down, no one cared. Right? But imagine you're working in an environment and you are suddenly using Kubernetes and you just like read about it on the internet a bit and watched one old conference talk and you did it all on your own time. And then you're trying to do Kubernetes and then this happened to a government worker that I know and someone put an extra 0 by accident. And so instead of 100 containers, it was 1,000. And when the cloud bill came in, that's when they noticed. And it was a very bad day. And luckily, because it's not private industry, they couldn't fire them, so they still work there. But they're like, then I felt humiliated and stupid and bad. And like, I'm not qualified to do my job. And there's a lot of like, should I just quit before they fire me? I'm terrible. I'm like, you're not terrible. They gave you 0 guidance. They gave you 0 training. 0 leader, come on. And so please train your staff. I realize that I work at a training company, so I'm biased. You don't have to hire me. You don't even have to do official training. You have to provide them knowledge. This can be a mentor. This can mean bringing in someone that costs too much from another company who's done all this before, who mentors people and has people job shadow. Like there's a ton of way to train people and get them the knowledge they need to do their job. But if you are in management and you do not need to raise your hand, you could just like think about it inside. That's your job, is to keep your staff ready. Okay, mistakes that could have been avoided. That is true. Okay, so bugs lost in the backlog. Okay, so whenever I hear, don't worry, Tanya, it's in the backlog. That's why I'm worried, buddy. That's why I'm worried. If something's critical, I don't want it going into the backlog. I want you to address it now. If I walked to your desk or like found you in the online chat channel and was like, hey, I need to talk to you now, I don't want you to put it into a backlog. Like maybe you will also do that, but I want this actioned now. And so I feel like the backlog is a place where bugs go to die and they just stay there forever. And I'm not saying we shouldn't use a bug tracker. Those are important. I used to use one all day, every day. But it's really important that us security folks look through the backlog. It's important that, first of all, every single security bug has like the little tag or the flag or whatever you want to call it that marks it as a security bug. You need to make sure those don't get removed without you knowing. And you need to make sure that like maybe every 30 days you look through and it's like, wow, somehow we have 100 more bugs this month than last month. Did we do something different? Did we get a new tool? Did we hire a super amazing penetration tester that found new stuff? Or like, are things going really poorly? And so I try to review things every 30 days. Sometimes it slips a bit past then, but it's really important bugs don't get lost there forever. Okay, next. No positive reinforcement. Negative Nellies everywhere. This might sound silly, but so like people tell me, they're like, you missed your calling as a kindergarten teacher. But I only like my children, the rest are terrible. It's true, right? Mine are the best. Yours, they're okay. But the point is like, just like little people, like little tiny humans known as children, really like positive reinforcement, so do adults. I am like a big fan of giving people a high five because they fixed a bug. I'm a big fan of writing an email to their boss and being like, I just want you to know. So I worked with this dev last year named Jenny. I'm like, Jenny's a rock star. She fixed every single bug, including the lows, and got it out by the end of the week. And I don't know if you're considering giving her a raise, but I want to like encourage you to do so. And Jenny, like the next time I saw her, she was like, and then she kept fixing bugs for me. So like security folks are so known for being negative, we come with bad news, etc. What if you showed up with donuts one day? Like what if you showed up with bagels, cream cheese, fruit, whatever it is, and like tried being friendlier? I used to work with a project manager that owned an apple orchard, and she'd just show up with apples. Her name was Gail. I really like her. And she'd be like, hey, here's some apples. By the way, I need that progress report. Everyone wanted to see her because she would bring you delicious fresh apples. And like she had an orchard, she had like a zillion trees. That's nothing for her, right? I'm not saying you have to bribe people to do their jobs, but I am telling you it works really well. Okay, so only worrying about your part. I used to be so guilty of this. I don't know if any of you have seen the meme with the little girl and she's like this, and there's like a giant house on fire behind her. And it was like, I gave my code to ops, it's their problem now. And I used to be that dev where I was like, I don't know why it's not running. That sounds like a you problem. If it crashed, that's not like, my app is perfect. It works on my machine. And so it turns out that like only worrying about our part sucks, and it does not mix at all with DevOps. And so I try to get feedback all the time. I try to talk to people. I try to make sure that they are, like that we're on the same track. And I often find like at first, I'm like, hey, do you have any feedback? Is anything going poorly? Is anything going better that you would prefer? And at first they're like, everything's fine. Everything's fine. And then I remember in 2021, this dev group where the previous guy was like Dr. No. Like, to be clear, he's brilliant, but all he ever said was no. And he has way more AppSec experience, and he has a very deep knowledge, and he was so terrible to work with. And so then I show up, and I'm like, listen, if you need something, tell me. And they're like, so you say you want to build trust? Yes, I do. I'm like so excited. I'm like, tell me what's going on. I'm going to fix it. And he's like, so your colleagues on the security team rolled out a product, which I won't name. And we now can't access localhost. So who here knows what localhost is, besides a dev's best friend? Okay, so when you code in your IDE, you like write code and you're like, this looks pretty cool. And then you say, I want you to run it. And localhost is the power within your computer that makes the app start running right before your eyes. And so you don't need a server, you don't need a container, it'll just run for you, and you can go through and test it and be like, that looks terrible. Font size 4 was a mistake. And so if you do that, so basically devs, like when I was a developer, I did that 100 times a day, literally. I constantly use localhost, and they're like, yeah, they're doing a proof of concept, and our 5 devs can't access localhost. And what that means is every time they want to see their work, they have to find a dev server, publish to it, pass the CI/CD tests, and get there. And meanwhile, they just want to see, like, is this function actually calling when it should be? And they're like, it's taking so long. Like, we completely screwed up our sprint. We're like super stressed. Can you do something? I'm like, I am on it. And so I went and I told the security team, and they're like, no, it's working perfectly. I'm like, no, it's not. They can't do their work. I explained what localhost was. They're like, oh my gosh, that's terrible. Why didn't they tell us? I'm like, did you ask them for feedback? They're like, why would we? Oh, okay, so you would, because then you would know this, right? And they're like, oh. And so then we like made a call. It turned out they'd made an error in the way they rolled it out. The tool is fine. It was us, not them. And so we fixed it, and 2 weeks later, the devs were like, we like you now. We like you. I'm like, what else do you have for me? Because if they're not able to release code and they're not able to test their code and see if it's good, that's still a security issue, right? And so we can't just worry about our part, even though I used to really like doing that. It's easier to do that. It's not the right way. Okay, so multiple bug trackers. I have not run into this very many times until security. And so the developers will all track their things in whichever one. And I mention Jira all the time because it is by far the most popular bug tracker for English-speaking and French-speaking humans on the planet. And those are the only languages I know. But then I got to security, and they're like, oh yeah, we have the risk register over there. We have our SAST over there. We have our DAST over there. And they're expecting me to check like 7 dashboards a day. I'm not doing that, no. And so I'm a dev, so I just wrote something to like smash it all together in one. And my boss was like, ooh, we should hire ex-devs more often. But don't have multiple bug trackers. Don't have a security bug tracker and a regular bug tracker. If it really, truly is extraordinarily sensitive, then go speak to them about it directly. But most of the time, it's not. Like, it's like, oh, there's cross-site scripting in one of our apps. Yeah. If you have more than 200 apps, I guarantee you that at least one of them has cross-site scripting, if not a whole bunch. Like something like 60% of websites across the planet, according to OWASP, and they know what they're doing when it comes to AppSec. You probably have some. It's not a secret. It's not the end of the world. Like exactly where it is. Yes, I wouldn't want to put it on the internet, but I trust my developers to want to know that so they can fix it, not so that they could like become evil and hack us. They have superpowers all across your network. If they hated you, you would have a really terrible year, right? And so they're not going to become evil just because you show them the bugs. And so we want one bug tracker, ideally, unless it's extraordinarily, truly sensitive and presents real risk to our business. And I've heard many times, well, but I was just like, what's the risk? What is the actual risk to our business? Explain. And if you can't explain it, then I'm like, sorry, it's going in the bug tracker, bye. And I find that I actually fight with the security people more than the devs when I go work somewhere. They're like, it's like you're one of them. I'm like, I am. Okay, so the next one's an insecure system development lifecycle. So the system development lifecycle is the methodology that the developers follow to create software. And you can do waterfall, you can do agile, you can do DevOps, you can do waterfail, which is what I see a lot of companies doing, where they're like, it's sort of like waterfall, but we have some sprints sometimes, and maybe we have a scrum once a month. And they're like, we're just like mashing the parts together we think are nice for our org. And that's totally fine. But if you're doing DevOps, I have seen a lot of security teams, and if you are one of them, don't feel bad. But they're like, I listened to the vendors, and just to be clear, vendors are my friends. They make awesome tools that make my life better. But the sales folks, they're not my friends. And they will tell you, oh, just put this in the pipeline, and then all of your security's done. And so I see where there's no security requirements. There's no threat modeling. There's no security architecture review. There's nothing except in the CI/CD. And the rest of the SDLC, there is zero support. There's no, oh, you're doing an API? Awesome. We go through this API gateway. Here's how you set it up. You have to do this, and if you don't do this and we find you, it's going to be bad. So please do this. We've made it easy for you. They have nothing. They just are like, oh, I bought 3 tools, I paid $500K for them, and I put them in the pipeline, I'm done, going to sleep. And that doesn't work. And if you are doing that, in an extremely biased but loving way, suggest you read my blog or check out the OWASP projects. There's so much more cool stuff you could be doing that costs time, not money, that gives real serious value as part of the system development lifecycle. And I literally talk about it all the time because I love the SDLC. Okay, but I'm gonna try to keep on track. So an overly permissive CI/CD. So I've only seen this twice so far, but I've heard stories where anyone can do anything. And so I went through and I saw all the developers had turned off all of the really nice SaaS tool that we had purchased and paid a lot of money for and that we thought had been running. I see developers who make 500 different... I worked somewhere once and they had 500 pipelines and 300 of them were like one guy's good time. And I'm sure he was a great employee, but I was like, do you know that this guy actually made, it was like 287 just for himself? And I was like, so I'm not gonna secure those. Those need to go away. Like, what is happening with this gentleman that he has enough time to make this many pipelines? And so I made him do like some janitor duty and cleaned it up. But so don't let anyone do anything they want, especially interns. I adore interns. One of my best employees that I've ever hired was an intern and now she's full-time and amazing and wonderful. And so don't let everyone have full powers on the CI/CD. Treat it like the valuable resource that it is and protect it. Okay, and 14, automation only in the CI/CD. Okay, so this, so like let's say I wanna automate everything. So I'm a dev. Sometimes I automate things at home. Like I have a little hobby farm and I've automated all the watering because I don't have time for that. I just want to like pick the flowers and eat the food. And so you can automate a ton of stuff. And I find a lot of AppSec people, they come from two backgrounds. And one is I used to be a developer and I shall automate all the things. And that is what I am. And so I just assumed they were all like that. Because I was like, why else would you want to do AppSec if you didn't build apps? Where does your love come from to do this job? But the other side I find is often like a GRC person who was like late to a meeting or ticked off the wrong person. It's like, you're in charge of AppSec now. Way to go. Have fun with that, Brad. And so as a result, they don't have all the technical skills. So they know risk, they know security, they're very bright, but they don't know the possibilities that are available. And so they'll be like, oh, I have to do in the CI/CD because I need it to be automated. No, like every AppSec tool you buy, you can make it run every night. You can make it run every Thursday at 4 p.m. You can have it like when you check in the code, it'll run then. You can have it only when you merge to the main branch. And when I tell them that, their eyes just light up and they're like, why no one tell me this? So I'm telling you this. You can automate all over the place. Everything does not need to go in the CI/CD. You can still be completely awesome, totally automated, obey all of the DevSecOps rules, and still have people like you. So if you do have a scanner and you like it, but it's really slow, let's say it takes 5 hours to scan the entire code base, that's cool. Do it on Sundays, every single Sunday. And then Monday morning, you get there, you get an email with the results, you go through it, or you can have it auto email the devs. Like, all of this stuff can be automated. If it has a computer near it, we can automate it. I have a friend that he'll be in bed and he'll set his coffee maker to make coffee and then go back to sleep for a bit. And so you can automate whatever you want if you are after it. And if you treat the developers really well, they'll automate it for you. Okay, so last one, hiding mistakes and errors. So how can we learn if we don't share information? So I have shared a bunch of information with you today. When I work in organizations, I now share information when we fail. So the first time that we did this, I was working at a company and we got a very, very, very inexperienced guy to be the manager of our team for just a few weeks because the real boss had left and we were recruiting a new boss and none of us wanted that job. And so it was like, sorry, you were late to the meeting. You have to act as our manager for a bit. And so this one dev team wouldn't do what we wanted and he insisted that we share all of our dirty laundry and all the different incidents that we had had. And I was like, we can't admit that we made mistakes. They won't trust us anymore. And he's like, I think if we're vulnerable, we'll build more trust. And I was like, don't do this is a bad idea, no, no, no. And then he was right, I was totally wrong. that team that we shared the secrets with became like the champions from then on. They're like, we are your warriors. This happens on our watch, never again. And so they became like pushing other dev teams and like challenging them. They're like, we fixed this many bugs. What did you do this week, losers? And so if we can share even just within our own organizations more, we all get to learn the lesson instead of that one dev that made that one mistake. And so if I can get you to take away one single thing from this entire talk, it is this. Please don't. So I know we can't share everything, but whenever you can, turn an error or a mistake into a lesson and be humble and explain like, I'm not perfect, I made a mistake. And it sounds weird, but it makes people like you more. It makes people share their mistakes with you, and then you can help them fix them. And so with that, I want to summarize for you. So what did we learn? So some people learn best from knowing what went wrong, as opposed to do this because I said so. They're like me, where they're like, but why? And that's normal, and that's okay. I want you to be able to see these errors from like as they start to happen so you can stop them. I would like it if you all had amazing DevSecOps programs. I am one of those AppSec people where I would love to put myself out of a job. So please all just be awesome. And these are several strategies. So like if you want to review the video later, my slides are online, I'm gonna give you a link. Like please steal all my ideas. When I give a talk, I'm like, please steal this and do this at home. But again, RSA is not at fault if you do it and it doesn't work. Blame me, not them, please. Okay, so with that, just a second. Oh, no, I'm not done. I have a few more things for you. So next week, look over your program and see if there are some things you can fix. In the next 3 months, I'm hoping you'll look through your backlog and see if there's some things you can remove or update to in your tools. Just basically do the things that we said. I'm supposed to do a summary slide. I'm not really a summary person, sorry. But I have some resources for you. And all of them, except the books, are free. And so this is a PDF summary, so you can just go and download all the slides immediately. I'm also going to have this link on the very last slide so that if you didn't get out your phone fast enough, you have another chance. So don't worry. And then also, I have a community online, and every single part of it is free. We have a few events per month online, and they're all free. We have videos, we have demos. We have a whole bunch of courses, including me teaching secure coding and AppSec, all for free. And the best part is the humans. So there's around 7,500 of us now. All of us are nice and friendly. We have a code of conduct, and we've never actually had to kick anyone out because they're all actually really great. And so if you want to meet more people or have your devs meet people, that's a place. I love DevOps. These first 4 books are DevOps books. I love these books. I didn't have a chance to add this, but Investments Unlimited was written by those same group of authors. And it's all about security and compliance and how to automate it and make friends while you do it. And then the last book is Alison Bobler and Application Security, and I wrote that, and me, my mom, and my grandma said it's great, so my grandma's read some now. I have a podcast where I just talk about AppSec, and I'm silly with other AppSec nerds. If you want to know more and like dive down silly, deep rabbit holes with us, like why is this SAST better? How exactly does it work? What the heck does static analysis mean? Sometimes they're lighter, sometimes they're heavier. We try to do like beginner, intermediate, and advanced and like go between the episodes like that. But anyway, we're on season 3. And the last resource is me. I am a giant nerd on the internet. I am at your service to help you. This is my jam. I love doing stuff like this. I love sharing information whenever I can. And so I'm constantly sharing videos and lessons. I'm really good at AppSec, not very good at business, and that's okay. And so with that, I want to say thank you very much for your time and attention today. Oh, wait. Okay, perfect. I was like, no, don't take the link off. Thank you very much for your attention today. I really appreciate you coming to this. Thank you. We have 7 minutes for questions, but then I'm just gonna stand outside. And I have stickers. So if you're a person that likes stickers or wants a business card or anything like that, I'll be standing outside in 7 minutes from now. But for now, do we have any questions? And if you do have a question, I am told to tell you or ask you very politely if you will go to one of the 3 microphones so that everyone can hear it instead of you. If you don't do that and you just want to yell it, I'll just repeat it. Do we have any questions? You need to like maybe wave your arm around a bit. This year, oh, there you go. Thank you.
Hi. Great presentation. You nailed it. Thank you. It's not a question, but a comment. I want to add one more
Yes.
Worst practice I've worked in AppSec for close to 20 years, so I'm familiar with this. Somehow, people often associate DevSecOps with cloud, and I don't know why some organizations don't want to do DevSecOps because they are scared of cloud. I've seen there's no relation between the two. Although you can do DevSecOps on cloud, you have the benefits of elasticity and all of that, but you can totally do it on-prem. So DevSecOps and cloud have nothing to be together. They can run totally independently.
Yes.
I wanted to add.
Can I add that?
Oh, yeah, please.
And I'll be like some awesome guy at RSA.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's a really good point. You 100% agree. Do we have more questions or comments, or anyone want to share anything? Because otherwise I will give you 5 minutes back, and then I'll go stand outside, and I know a whole bunch of you will ask me questions there. Because people are shy, especially when there's a microphone. Okay, well, if there's no one else, thank you so much. Thank you to RSA. Thank you to the sound and video people. Thank you to every person.